The assumption that the series is simply an exercise in rose-tinted nostalgia is fundamentally at odds with its pervading themes: rampant nationalism, fiscal inequality, and stifling social conservatism. Okay, I'm not sure Professor Butler is watching the same show I am, and I'm there's something I found. Oh, we were talking about Stranger Things tonight again. And sorry about the late start, guys. Thank you so much for hanging in there and being with us live, because stranger things keep happening behind the scenes with our tech. Oh my gosh, we're trying so hard. We're girls. Which in Stranger Things would make us like geniuses, because all of the computer geniuses in the movie in the show are girls. But anyway, I'm off topic. Something I fundamentally don't understand. See, I'm reading my notes because I need to stay on topic now. I was one of those nerds in the 1970s and 80s. Maybe not as genius level as Susie, who can, do cool things with computers that I probably maybe have known could happen, but I probably couldn't have done that. But I was one of those nerds in the 70s and 80s, bullied, laughed at, made jokes of, and yet, and this is what's really puzzling me, right? It's like I think, not maybe in academia, right? But and yet, I see, like, I got some more books. I got another book. I got another book. Staying close to my microphone, everybody. Guys, do a sound check for me and make sure that our sound is crisp and clean and pure right now, because we want to have this conversation tonight properly, right? Okay. Can you follow me what I'm saying right now? I don't know. Can you tell I was up till 3 a.m. watching season 4 last night? That's all you need to know. So I got another book, right, which is for the fans. The Stranger Things Worlds Turned Upside Down, and this lovely cover, the crinkliness of a library plastic cover, and the battered dust jacket, and the fair condition on Medville's general store, and then a sticker to you in our world saying, "Don't freak, it's supposed to look like this." Anyway, my problem here is I was one of those outcast nerds, laughed at, bullied, weirdos in middle school and high school. And yet, here's a show that's apparently beloved, whose fans would probably hate me. Or would they? What has happened to our culture in my lifetime? I know the way this show is set, it's meant to evoke what it was like to be one of the kids that was me in that period. The geeky ones, the ones reading the Lord of the Rings. I read the Lord of the Rings. I've got the merch, right? And yet this show now is deeply beloved, and it's commented on by scholars who would hate me if they met me in real life. This Rose Butler saying that, in fact, I'm so angry and frustrated. She's saying this show that I'm enjoying so much is about rampant nationalism and how awful it is, and fiscal inequality. Okay, I agree there. And stifling social conservatism. Here's the puzzle that I'm wrestling with right now. If this show is so beloved, so much so that it's, going into its fifth season, and airing in 3 holiday installments, and Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Eve. If it's so beloved, why do I feel like just as much of an outcast as I ever did? Do you see? This show is supposed to be about my generation, about the kids that were like me, the ones that were bullied and hated and despised and ridiculed because we were the geeky ones reading the books like the Lord of the Rings that nobody else had ever heard of. Is the nostalgia of Stranger Things for me? Or is it for the guardians of culture who write things about how Stranger Things... This is another quote from the same essay. This is Rose Butler's A Nightmare on Maple Street in this book on investigating Stranger Things. You can see how I'm doing a Joyce right now. I feel it's like, wait, I was supposed to be Veronica, right? And here it is. I hear that this show is in fact illustrating just how damaging the toxic masculinity of conservative patriarchy can be. What? No, now I'm really confused. Then she makes another claim about how that this it Stranger Things takes aim at, this is the conclusion to this essay. In a show that takes such aim at traditional conservative ideals of the nuclear family and archaic family structures. Apparently, Stranger Things is attacking the nuclear family. Did you know that? Is that what our nostalgia is supposed to be for this show? It is a welcome adage that the series allows its young characters some respite, and that the most loving, satisfying, and healthy relationships are found in these unconventional surrogate families. Whose story is this anyway? And what have we lost? Welcome to the Mosaic Arc. It's a Demogorgon! Okay, no.
It was Vecna. Vecna messed with our tech.
Well, no, but the thing is, okay, so behind the scenes just now during the credits, we were talking about how was I actually truly upset? I've been watching a lot of How to Make Stranger Things, and I'm now definitely a fan of Millie Brown, even share her name.
She's amazing. She's just truly amazing.
And I probably stayed up till 3 a.m. with a migraine watching season 4. It's not helped my equanimity. No. Also, everyone, my dog is being sick, right? We're living Stranger Things right now, but I am actually genuinely upset in the way that we've typically learned to be by the academic.
Did she honestly? Did she read? I don't think she's watching the same movie. I think what she's doing is rehashing third wave feminist talking points from like 1994. So the nostalgia continues.
Well, this is, good point, right? It's like I remember the kinds of claims that she's making, but I am not seeing this in Stranger Things. I am thinking that Stranger Things is, it's like I was sucked in so fast. I watched nearly all 4 seasons in 2 weeks. And I'm trying to be I'm teaching and finishing articles right now. I'm not getting enough sleep, clearly, which is, why we're late to get the stream off the ground tonight, because I kept making mistakes.
It's really more about the ages they are, and I thought they were portraying it really well, about the angst that they have and the romances that they have and the friendships that they have and the breakups and the makeups and all kinds of emotional upheaval that happens at that age, even if life is normal. As far as the the patriarchy, oh my gosh, please stop! You sound like a boomer. Just stop. Anyway,
I think
as far as the patriarchy and patriotism and hyper patriotism, I think they did a pretty good job of just showing snippets of that, because that was part of real life back then, that you would see on the news or during an election cycle. And Carrie Ellis was doing an excellent George W. impression, I thought. with his twang there, because I was thinking, "Wait a minute,
Why would
why
he
does
have
he
a
have a
twang
twang?"
in
It's
Indiana? I
Indiana.
know.
I'm like, "Oh, he's doing George W. Okay, I get it."
Well, it's all I mean, the cast is full of these Brits, right? And the degree
Yeah,
to which they can and can't do the accent is I mean, usually they're pretty good, so fair enough. Um, but no, so the one I think Butler, I couldn't find her online. She's a professor in Sheffield. I think that's right.
okay.
Yeah, Sheffield Hallam University. And I think she's actually, I mean, her early, this is one of her it's about, well, these essays are from 2019. Um, no, sorry, 2021. And so they cover the first three seasons.
Mm.
But her previous publication, she seems to be a younger woman. So she seems to be
He's
this
channeling the older generation very well.
well, right, and, like, whose nostalgia is it? Because we're
Yeah.
watching it. I am not seeing this show going after, conservatism, frankly,
No, it's not. It
right?
was
And
just presented as a matter of fact. It's like some people were this way, some people were that the way. It was kind of a mix. It was a mixed town, and that was true. You
right,
know,
but
the
for this woman watching it, for Butler watching from the UK, and of course, so they published this in 2021, and when they're writing the essays, Trump was president for his first round, and a few of them make comments about that, right? It's like now we are in Trump America, and
oh,
Stranger Things,
stop. Oh,
and so no, but
okay,
for
I'll
them,
say this, she knows how to get published. Anyway, go on.
possibly that's what's going on here, but the what I'm interested in is, I am seeing a lot of wonderful rich things that are clearly coming out of the movies that the Duffer Brothers watched in order to source it, and a lot of John Hughes stuff, and I'm seeing something that feels familiar to me. I was not aware of myself being conservative in you know our contemporary terms now. When I was in high school, for goodness sake, I was this a studious geeky student who wanted to be, top in Latin and get valedictorian. I don't know whether that made me a conservative or not, right? But it did make me um uh and I wasn't even necessarily voting then. I know I didn't vote for Reagan. But it's sort of I feel conflicted about that in a lot of different directions, because I do remember, and I think we've talked about this, being in England in 1986 when the Iran Contra stuff broke. So I was
Mm.
certainly aware of the controversies around his presidency, but uh, in in her version of things, now we are the horrible conservatives that clearly Stranger Things is attacking, right?
That's
Which
just dumb. It's not what the show's about. Sorry, it's a dumb take. It's you just to be honest. I can appreciate the work that goes into writing a book and getting it published, but it's dumb. It's a dumb
Well,
premise.
she's one chapter in an edited collection. It's not her whole
Yeah.
book. The book is edited by Tracy Mollett and Lindsay Scott, and this is Rose Butler's essay. So I mean, but the thing is, for the most part, they're in the authors seem to be maybe of the age of the Duffers, right? So whose nostalgia is this, right? They're saying they're looking at the Duffer Show, saying the Duffer Show is attacking the things that you and I value from our previous culture, and yet
I
we're
didn't see it that
watching
way.
yeah, we're watching it and going, no, that's not what's in the show. And so our question
No.
tonight is, it's like, what is the carrying last week we were talking more about a big overview of like what we think is the most, like the media themes and I mean, we're going to be looking at some of the Christian elements in the story. We're going to keep doing this for weeks, guys, because we're warming up to the release of season 5. But that we have actually, I mean, you'd been watching the show before, and I just
Mhm.
found it and saying, "Wow, okay, how did I miss this?" Has there been an underground, sanity in the fandom of Stranger Things, hiding out there in the upside down of the right side up for a decade, and I never heard of it. It's like, do you see what I'm saying? That
I guess, yeah, I guess you have to be the kind of person who's attracted to those type of stories, to have been aware of it maybe? because there has been a lot of creativity in movie production. Um, I wouldn't exactly call this independent because they went through Netflix, but as you
Right.
pointed out before, they went through like 30 different pitches before somebody bought it. So they worked really hard to get this produced. So it's kind of independent that way. It's not like they were working for a studio who had a writing room and said, "Okay, write this for me. Write something like this for me."
That's
This
true. Right.
yeah. So
That
this
Netflix
was
picked up what they pitched rather than
yeah.
that they
So
were working for Netflix and wrote something that Netflix and
right.
they had good backing in the sense of getting someone to take the chance on the show.
Yeah.
So that's so what someone is saying, Jan God is saying, I know a guy who thinks Stranger Things is about MK Ultra. Well, it's in the show.
It is. It is about MK
It
Ultra.
is
That
about MK
underlies the
Ultra.
whole that underlies the entire story.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is what I find amusing to find out that there has been this incredibly popular Netflix show that is nostalgic in a way that I find amazingly appealing, and that, as you were saying, just to start with, it's about the age of the people. Okay, so we were the age of the characters in the time in which it's set, but I'm not sure that that's what the only thing of the nostalgia is. So I have what Ross Duffer says in the fan book as opposed to the scholarly book. If you guys are looking to buy something, the fan book is really fun. It's it's got pictures and little character sketches, and I would have loved I would absolutely love this kind of book when I was 12. I love it now. So there you go. Um, so you say da, 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 da. For the brothers, the 1980s setting was essential to the premise. Not only was the show a love letter to the films that had influenced them growing up, almost all of which took place in the decade, but it was also vital to the plot. Mike and his friends needed to have a certain degree of autonomy that kids in the era of helicopter parenting and social media are rarely afforded. I'm like, oh, okay, this is interesting.
Mhm.
Ross Duffer says this. We grew up a little bit later than the period when the show is set, but without the internet and without cell phones, we weren't as tethered to the world. I remember growing up, I felt like I could step out of my house, go with a friend out into the woods, and feel like we were going on some grand adventure. I feel like it's harder to have that experience nowadays when your mom can just text you and say, it's time to come home for dinner. That sense of freedom and nostalgia for that freedom was something that we really wanted to capture. Now that
Mm.
fits.
Yes, that does fit.
That what the Duffers themselves wanted to capture was the kids getting to bike around and have
Mhm.
adventures and not be helicopter parent, which ironically, given what but the academics are saying is, oh yes, it was a period of stifling conservatism. I'm like, are you kidding me? The
But I don't
literal
even think she knows what that means though, because it means something different today than it meant then. And I mean, because things evolve, parties evolve, people are complex, they're not cardboard cutouts. And there were no cardboard cutouts. I really appreciate what they did with each one of these characters.
hmm
It wasn't until you get to season 4 where I saw somebody that some people that looked a bit cardboard cut out of villainous type behavior.
the
But
the
it's real
the the
minor.
the the athletes.
No, them and the mean girls,
Oh,
in
at the skating
California,
rink. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So that I mean, stuff like that didn't really happen because there were, some adults around going, "Knock it off," right? So, but I really appreciate how, and I mentioned this before, the rich kid driving the BMW isn't all bad, and the poor
hmm
kid who's living in the shotgun shack is not all good. Everybody is a very individual, complex character, and so it's beautiful. It's perfect because that's what it makes it look like a memory. And I believe him. I noticed this right away. I said, "Yeah, they're using all these '80s references, but
hmm
it just seems to be a framework that they're using to put their story in." It's like so that makes perfect sense. The explanation of why they put it at that time period because they needed the characters to have some autonomy because that explains it without having to explain it. So I totally get that. Well done.
Right, and that the nostalgia is for the freedom that they actually had, not that I mean the irony of finding out that in fact, the kids are not finding their home life stifling. in the way that this it's like that what
Right.
she's describing is the feeling of restriction and constraint from the helicopter parenting. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
right? It's like
Yeah.
why do so many people who allegedly, I mean, so what's interesting for me, and everybody says this indeed, those of you who grew up in the 70s, 80s, even to the 90s, Mel was showing us a video that had some footage, like family movie footage from the mid 90s, and it still looked fairly familiar. Kids playing jump rope and playing in sprinklers
Mhm.
and that kind of thing. And I'm like, okay, so we remember childhood like that. And from my perspective, as far as I think about it, it's like, okay, I'm 60 now. I don't have grandchildren right now, right? So I don't know what the kids who were 5 are doing daily right now. I have had students throughout this whole period, right? And as far as I'm concerned, my students are my students. That there hasn't been a vast, difference between the students I had in the 90s and the students I have now. They come to class, I give them exercises, they write stuff, they're intelligent, right? It's like I'm not so
Mhm.
I maybe I'm insulated at University of Chicago from the the utter catastrophe of absolutely everything. Ironically, given what's happened to academia, right? It's like saying that I'm insulated from what's the crash of the culture means something weird's happening because I'm supposed to have been in the eye of the monster being in the university world. But I just assumed, kids as kids, and sure, don't you still do the things that we did? And to find out, no, in fact, you can't, and that it's because you have a cell phone and your mom can text you, and I'm like, oh, right. That's not, as insidious as, there's gun violence everywhere or something like that. It's like you simply are, it's because of the way the phone makes sure that you're always tied to being able to be found. Like you can know where your kids are. And the famous, like, it's 9 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? And we're like, yeah, we're at the pool. What do you know? It's swim practice and it's nighttime, and the nighttime practices are really neat because the lights are on.
Yeah. Yeah, the kids in the show use ham radios and CBs to talk to each other. So they're kind of tethered to each other that way, but you never see the adults using it. So that's kind of interesting. So they kind of melted current time with 1985 that way.
Yeah, the kids are texting each other, or always expecting to be in contact because of the walkie-talkies, but the
Yes,
parents don't necessarily know where they are. Right.
right.
Yeah.
Or seem to care most of the time
Well,
because they're used to it. They're used to the kids coming home and not although in Hawkins, I don't think they should be completely unaware where their kids are at all times.
okay, trying to keep desperately. Do you know what it's like? I'm just telling you guys who are watching this, right? What it's like keeping the dragons on topic about Stranger Things, because like everything connects to everything else, and we end up talking about
Yeah,
8 things in one conversation while we're prepping for this. We're doing monsters next week
okay.
for Halloween, and to think about what the threat is. We need to
Yeah.
but tonight I want to talk about this sort of the I realize why I stayed up till 3 in the morning watching 4 is I couldn't, and I'm still not done yet, so they're still in danger, but that somehow they've written these characters so engagingly, and the actors, I mean the kids doing the acting are amazing, absolutely,
They are.
that you don't want to stop because they're still in danger,
They're in
right?
danger. I have to make sure they're
I
okay.
have to make sure they're okay. I'm
I can't
totally
just
there
sleep.
that with
Yeah.
Joyce, right? It's like, "Where's my son? I'm not going to sleep until I find him."
Yeah.
And so you're, the nostalgia seems to me to be at a top, the not top level, at the absolute critical level of you care about these characters, that
Mm.
they're a little annoying, they're kids, but even as you're saying, it's like even the bad guy ones, right? So Billy is an interesting bad guy one because he's so smoldery and wonderful. Oh my gosh. What a cat. Another Heath Ledger
Ew.
from Perth, right? And it's like, good grief, Billy. Right. So I love the scenes in this is in 3, right? At the beginning when the moms are all there at the pool and waiting for him to come on
Oh,
lifeguard
yeah.
duty.
It was so skeevy, but
Well, I remember the pool, right? It's like we had a swimming pool like that. It wasn't a town pool. It was the neighborhood pool, right?
we had
But
a pool too, and a neighborhood pool. I don't remember ever seeing a mom there. It was
oh,
just kids and teenagers.
Oh no, the parents came to ours
But the
too.
lifeguards, yeah, they were hot.
I agree. See, this is
That was the
here.
thing I
Talk
remember.
about nostalgia, right? I grew up in the swimming pool, right? So I grew up around
Yeah,
guys like in racing trunks because we were on a
yeah,
team.
same.
So it's like, yeah, I miss that. The days of youth when we were on the swim team and out there swimming.
Yeah.
Fencers are in much have more padding and outfits. It's not quite the same. Anyway, I've got you're gonna have to help me stay on topic because I'm so drifting back
You're
into
tired
I'm very tired.
because you stayed up till 3 in the morning like a maniac.
Because I stayed up till 3. I'm worried about the kids, right? Okay, so we have the Duffers are saying, look, we wanted it set in a time when the kids could actually have adventure. That there's oh right that you were saying, but it's dangerous in Hawkins. It's like right, but the I don't want to do this week, but the what is the danger that they're fighting? I think we need to think about that next week when we're doing the monsters. The
Mhm.
the I what the danger I don't think the danger that they're fighting is stifling conservatism, right? I
I'm
think
just
I think
such
that's
a dumb
simply
take.
inane.
I'm insulted on behalf of these writers. That's absurd. You know, they had some political signs as background. You know, they had that your glad handing politician, which was a bit of a cardboard cutout. Love you, Carrie Elwes. It was the character, not you. He was a bit of a cardboard cutout because he needed to be. It was just it was a plot vehicle to move it along. But it's an insult to these writers to say that they were writing wider tropes in general. It's that's not what they did. I think they achieved something remarkable here, and I'd like to see that acknowledged.
Well, yes, that's why we're doing the fan version of our
Yeah.
stream now to talk it through. But the thing is, the horror. So we did talk. I mean, I think there is a level at which the myth level of what the horror is matters a lot, right? And whether there's what political dimension there is to it is complicated. But the just the basic sense of, in fact, what are the characters wrestling with? What is the problem? And whether simply cardboard cutout interpretation onto it that, oh, it was the 80s, that was when Reagan was president, therefore the bad thing that people all felt depressed by was conservatism. And therefore, I mean, because obviously it's like I think, okay, like spoiler alert to our particular argument here, but I think in fact the reason the show is so popular is because the Duffers, thanks be to God, have avoided all of the ridiculous cliches of the last decade miraculously, right?
Yeah.
How have they managed miraculously not to do the usual absolutely deadening conservatism or suffocating wokeness of the 2010s, right? It's like it's
Yeah.
something of a miracle. And if you want to feel nostalgic for the time in which you weren't helicopter parented to death because you never could get away from your mom on the text phone, think again about exactly what it is that the Duffers were trying to give us, escape into. They say it's back into that freedom that people had when they weren't constantly being smothered by something, right? I think the monsters are more complicated than just saying it's feminism. But what's interesting is there's almost, I mean, it's like
Did somebody say that?
well, it's implicit in all the scholarship, right? Because everybody, that the right answer to get to the mid 20th century, mid 21st century is the things that we needed to escape from in the past are the patriarchy, right?
Yeah. And the pendulum is swinging back in an equally ugly way right now. I'm seeing, little snippets of that here and there.
How do you
I,
mean?
I again, this is like, yeah, it's yeah, girls are dumb. Girls can't do anything. Girls need men to do anything at all. And then why don't you just admit it? I'm sorry. It started out as a joke. That's funny. But then it goes on for 2 years, and you're like, yeah, I don't like where this is going. Because this kind of talk is what got you radical feminism to begin with.
Okay, so and this is great, right? I was making jokes at the beginning about how if I were one of the girl characters in the show, I'd be better at this. That they've managed to do this beautiful, all of the characters. I mean, you stay up till 3 in the morning, for goodness sake, caring about all of them, the men and the women, the
Yeah.
boys and the girls. Duffers, we love you. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for
It's awesome.
giving us characters that we can like. We can like the capable girls because they're not insufferably girl bosses, right? And
Right.
we can like the men because, for goodness sake, I mean, I love how, they're desperately trying to protect the girls. They're trying to take on leadership roles. They're trying to redeem themselves. They're trying to do all of these magnificent, wonderful male things. It's the most
Mhm.
gender gorgeous show I've watched in ages.
Yeah.
And these
Good.
people can only see it as like, challenging the toxic patriarchy of the late 20th century. And
Yeah,
I'm
way
like,
to
oh
suck
my
all the
gosh.
fun out of the story. Good grief. Overanalyze it.
Well, no, but we're overanalyzing it too. That's okay.
I'm
But
not overanalyzing it. I'm just no, I'm right. Remember?
yes, you're right. You are. Yes, you'll end up right.
This
But
time.
by the path that we have to take, it's like nice and windy, right? Like the tunnels underneath Hawkins. Um,
Yes.
that
Vines.
that they are. What's interesting is horror is actually always showing us what's gripping us and what we're frightened by. And the interesting thing about what in fact happens in this story, I mean, the nostalgia and the feeling of lost, what's been lost. I mean, start with having friends.
Yes.
Right? Here our
Yeah.
boys are in their opening scene, which is like what I think, this scene is it I was reading in the fan book, right? This first one they filmed. The kids were just great together and everybody loves it. This scene, captures you instantly. This is the we have now, the kids are playing a game, you're in a game, you're going to be in this adventure, you're welcomed into the adventure, and there's a team of boys, like
Mhm.
Hobbit level, 4 boys that are going
Yeah.
to, stick together and be, fight against these monsters.
Mhm.
And the nostalgia for sensing that there is a fight, there is a clarity of what's the monster, and we need to fight it.
Right. It's the fellowship.
Yeah. So the nostalgia straight up is, it's like, I'm amazed they've got a fan base. They're about to make season 5. I hope. Oh wait, actually, they've already made it, so they're about to release it. So good. We can't
I
ruin their
haven't
life
I
by
haven't news
saying,
about that.
"Oh my gosh, how beautifully traditional this is."
So
Boy,
I just want
boys fight dragons. Oh golly.
yes, boys fight dragons and girls fight dragons too, which is also I like that.
Well, yes, and
You
that
know,
the most
Nancy
powerful
is so
character is this girl who's
is this girl, right? But Nancy also, because she's so good with a gun, obviously, and she says her parents taught her how to shoot. She's Sarah Connor. Come on,
Oh, no, and so what I find funny about this with the just to use the poor scholars as our foil,
monster
um,
punching bag.
I'll salute my opponent, right? We talked about them last week, and now you get me on the attack, right? That they don't seem to understand the '80s very well because, indeed, it's Sarah Connor, it's Ripley, it's
Yeah,
you want strong female characters. We invented them. What are
there
you
were a ton of
talking
them, and
about?
it started with Ripley in 1979,
Right.
right? So yeah, you had Ripley, you had Sarah Connor, and there were a couple of more in the 90s. It started to pick up a little bit more, and they were all really fun characters, Elektra. Then you had my favorite was um was Xena Warrior Princess.
Right.
It was very campy, it was very goofball, but I loved it because the actress that got to play her, she was strong. She was physically strong and imposing, 6 feet tall, and she loved to camp it up a lot, and it was a lot of fun. But she was definitely a strong character, and people were attracted to those kinds of stories. The girls in this are different. Elle is the most vulnerable girl there. She's also the most powerful.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
Nancy is very confident, maybe a little overconfident. Um, Frankly, I think both Jonathan and Steve can do better than her because I don't think she's interested in either one of them in particular. But she's an interesting character,
Hmm.
and uh, and then the new character that introduced in the season 3. We were just talking about her last week, Robin, right?
Robin. Yeah.
Like little
Yeah.
sister Robin. So they have a lot of really good relationship dynamics going on here too.
Who
Um,
we may just going through the strong female characters that we've had. Robin is, finding out that, in fact, she's the daughter of Uma Thurman. So if you guys have not
Yes.
seen Kill Bill yet, you're really missing
Kill Bill.
out on
Right. Kill Bill's another one, right?
exactly
That's a
what backstory we're talking about through
yeah.
the nostalgia of these characters, but that they've somehow miraculously managed to write characters that are complicated.
Yes, they're complicated. They're complex beings, and they're really fun to get to know. And I love how smart Robin is. Right? When she's being interrogated by the Russians under truth serum or whatever it is they call it, and she said, we guessed your code in a day."
Oh, yes.
We took it on Cerebro and we broke it in a day. She's all arrogant about it.
Well, they
That
have,
was
I
really
mean, they
funny.
do have the kids, except for Elle with, her extra powers, that the kids actually have age appropriate abilities too, right? They're not,
Yes.
they're genius level, but it's actually of their age, right?
Yeah, well,
It's
yeah,
actually good
she's
for,
almost 18 years old.
right.
Yeah,
It's
she's
good.
almost
It's
full
good
adult.
smarts for their age rather than
Right.
either overly, like the kids,
There's no
the
Mary Sue's
kids
here at all.
amazing, right?
Yeah.
So on the one hand, you have opening with a group of friends who are boys who stay, stay interesting and develop, and that they've actually over the series let them grow up and become more complicated and irritating as mid-teenagers do, and and that the girls who are part of their friend group, I mean, they feel like the kinds of girls we were when we were
Yes.
their age, and saying, we were not, I mean, I think this to this day I have not felt oppressed by the patriarchy. Sorry. This is why back in 2015, which is why I've been so distracted not watching the Stranger Things for the last decade, and when it opened in 2016, when I said 3 cheers for white men and everybody got mad at me, and I'm like, sorry,
Yeah.
they've helped me my entire life. So if the patriarchy was about oppressing me when I was supposed to be girl reporter, that was a little caricatured when Nancy has all the
It was too
problems
much.
with the
Yeah.
guys at the paper, but sorry, I didn't notice it. What I love, and of course, what's gorgeous about the way they've written the relationship between the kids is, one, that it's between the different ages of the kids, right? So you have
Mhm.
the boys group and the plus Elle, and then Max, and then the teenagers group. So Jonathan and Steve and Robin and Nancy, right? And that they actually help each other across that divide, which is they are different, right? The
Yeah.
bits that the younger kids can be in versus the parts of the story and then the adults are there too, right? So ironically, I'm sorry guys, but if you think what was bad about the 70s and 80s was the oppressive patriarchal conservatism, no. I'm going to tell you again, and you're going to remember it. I grew up in a single parent family because my dad left us. That's not conservative toxic masculinity patriarchy. That's it. We were the buyers, except for we were in a fancier house because my dad was a doctor. And when he left, we never saw him again. Well, we did, but they just left us with the house and my mom taking care of us. So all of this fantasy about the kids being alone as latchkey kids with the mother at work all the time, me.
Yeah, that was a lot of kids then, and,
It was not in our
yeah.
neighborhood. It was me and my friend, my sister and brother and everybody else. They still had their families, right? And we were
Mhm.
the reason that we were like weird and strange, among other things, and ashamed to say it out loud, was Dad was gone.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe you had a more experience
No, I
with
had there
more
were
of it.
there were people that in my neighborhood, they were single moms. They were divorced. Yeah. Some of my
You're a
friends'
little
moms,
younger than I
they were
am, so maybe it started
3 years.
it hit
Yeah.
in a wave. We were just the first, right? I remember it's like
Mhm. It was a
very,
wave, definitely.
very distinctly remember in
Yeah.
1975 or it was 75 or 76 when my dad said he was leaving. Literally, we knew nobody else. And
That was typical too. Yeah. It did increase, in the later 70s and the 80s
right,
more.
it picked up speed. So in
Mhm.
fact, the toxic patriarchy was they left just like the buyer's dad does. And
And the toxic patriarchy was that the mother always got the kids.
Mm.
and there wasn't you're spending your weekend with your dad by court order back then. That came later.
Well, yeah, so we saw my dad, once a year.
Yeah, because they didn't order it. It was like it automatically the children automatically went to the mother, which wasn't always the best idea, but it was just that yes, the patriarchy was so strong that the mother immediately got full custody of the kids and alimony. That's how bad the patriarchy was, right?
Stunning, right? And then my
Yeah.
dad moved to, so it's like I think I'm abreacting to season 4 partly because my dad then moved to Reno with
Oh,
his
did he?
with my stepmother. So we first met my stepmother in Reno because we went out for Thanksgiving dinner to see them there. And you know, okay, right? But so it's sort of funny with the nostalgia for what, right? It's like the Duffers get it right. It was nostalgia for being able to have our adventures and be out there. But the
Mhm.
feeling of which family was most oppressive and challenging and who was struggling, and I mean they're doing a nice job of showing the layers of that as well,
Yes,
right?
because they all have their own individual struggles, and their
Right.
struggles I recognize too, from families I knew, from my own family, yeah, that's, the unhappy, wife who stays because she's, and good for her, committed to her marriage, but, she's bored. That's why she's reading bodice rippers when Billy shows up at her door looking like one,
Well, and
with
to their
the
credit,
cover
they
model,
don't write the usual
and they
Netflix plot
and
and
they
that she
no, which
sleeps
was
with him.
wonderful. Right, and then what was great is they didn't say, "Oh, and they had this wonderful reconciliation." No, she's still rolling her eyes at her husband like, "Oh my gosh."
Right,
Right, but she's sticking with him, which was very realistic. And, poor Max, her mom, now divorced for a second time, and she's having a really hard time, but she's like, "Well, it's better because at least he's not here, my stepdad, because he was abusive." But they're saying and it's not and now everything got better. No, it's still hard. It's still
right.
really hard. It still shows people, you know, living out their lives and trying to do the best that they can. No, there are, like I said, very few cardboard cutout evil people here.
Well, so
Uh,
we have various layers. So we've been thinking about the kids as the opening setup, right? I do have my pictures are now not in order of where we've gone with conversation, but I'd saying that one of the things I obsessed with last week was at the houses, and that they're so very clearly in Georgia to me, not Indiana. Um, the that feeling, one of the things that I have, and this I wonder about because the Duffers are saying helicopter parents don't let their kids have the adventures that we had, which is interesting. And of course, the helicoptering came out of, I think, some of the anxieties that
yes,
people
that they're
later got.
presenting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like
This, this
we were all, single parent family, whatever single parent families we all had, and
well,
not
not
being.
just that, kids on milk boxes. Remember milk cartons?
Oh
Missing
yeah, yeah,
kids.
yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
Satanic Panic, which they're going to get into in season 4, which was real, I remember it,
Mm-hmm.
and, yeah, it's and then the introduction of, you know now they get into psychology, the introduction of, different disorders like ADHD and the SSRIs they um, started prescribing, and this is just a big ugly snowball, but, then there's violence and school shootings, and just as everybody's pulling back from being in this oppressive patriarchy and disciplining students. We don't do that anymore. We don't even kick them out of school. It's just there's a whole lot of stuff that happened around the late 1980s where this story is heading through seasons 4 and 5
Mm-hmm.
that just exploded out. It just exploded the culture in not very nice ways. And one of them is helicopter parenting. Everybody was terrified.
So here, Jan got to say the nostalgia for surviving dysfunction. Well, yes, we were
Yeah.
tough. What are you talking about? It's like
No,
we made it out of that period. But
I think our grandparents had it a bit tougher. Come on.
well, as
Couldn't
I
even eat some
understand it,
days.
kids now think they've gone through some fairly difficult stuff with the
They
lockdowns and
did.
things. So
They absolutely did.
I think that if you
Yeah.
survive out of adolescence, you get the medal, right? But
I would rather starve than be that age and go what these kids went through in middle school. It was demonic,
in the
and I'm not saying that
lockdowns. Yeah.
Yep, I'm not
In
saying
the
that
period
lightly
in which
either.
this is set, right, in which the season 4 was hung up for filming because well, actually, it was hung up for
Mhm.
filming because of the writer's strike or the actor. No, there was
Yeah,
some industry strikes, right?
it was absolutely cruel. It's unimaginably cruel to what they did to these kids,
So
and
they're gonna get to their own horror of surviving dysfunction. But so yeah, so what you're saying is that some of the things that people are feeling oppressive now arose out of the desire to fight the
yes.
monsters that came up in
Mhm.
our time, which are and aren't being portrayed in the series, which is interesting. I mean, we talked last time about exactly how much the Cold War feel was there. They get to it more. I've now seen
They
season
get to
3,
yes, which
right?
is yeah, which
Or
is why, you know,
4. They get to it
I
more.
had
Yeah.
I had explained to this to my son. He says, why do they put the Russians into it? That's just ridiculous." I said, "Because it's important to the story."
Right.
And then you get to season 4 and it shows you why it was important to the story. It's like it was an arms race and they considered this thing to be, you know, a power source, right? There were
Yes.
at least they were exploring it. But so yeah, that's a good I thought that was a good pretty good decent plot vehicle that way.
But so
But
what the houses are seen what the houses are is there is this feeling. I don't know that I've lived in the neighborhood that I live in Chicago for 30 years, right? And
mhm.
this neighborhood was built in the 1920s.
Those are
So
solid buildings, yeah.
but in that sense it's an original suburb in the sense that it was
Mhm.
the Hyde Park was built as the outpost of, the original city was up, but around the loop and north side, and Hyde Park, among other things, this was where the exposition was in the 1893,
Mm.
and it was also when they first made the rail line up, um from the south side. It was like they're luxury hotels down here because this is where you came to go to this beach, which is which
Oh,
is
there's a beach there?
on the lake,
Kinda?
right?
Yeah.
But there are, take the South Shore line to, these luxury hotels, some of which are now they're not hotels anymore, they're all luxury apartments. But the this was an old style suburb. We lived in the 70s. We lived in a house that was probably built not long before we moved into it. And then my mother, when we moved from the suburb in Louisville to where my mom lives now, my mom's been in the same house since 1979. So
Wow.
I feel like I've missed some of the like, why are we being nostalgic for these houses, which to me just look like, right, houses.
Well
What
because you're nostalgic for your youth. That's why.
Well,
I
that,
mean,
but
for us, yeah.
my meta question is why the show's so popular, right? And the show is so popular because it's attracting people that are the age of the characters.
Yes, it is, and it's about relationships, and they can relate to it, and,
But the
you
whole
know,
point
it's
should be that they don't know any of this because it's nostalgic and it's the world that is lost, right? It's
well,
like,
they know having friends. They'll never not know that.
well,
You know,
allegedly
they
no, because we've got, nothing. This is a nostalgic time in which all of the things that, were great in the 80s. Wait, no, I'm tangling up, are gone now, right?
friendships are never gonna be gone, or the desire for friendships and relationships are never gonna be gone. That's never gonna happen. That's not the way God made us.
Well, I agree with that, but I think one of the so here we also have the nostalgia of this high school, right? And the dance at the end of season
The
2 where
snowball.
they get
That's the
that.
middle school,
Yeah,
yeah.
all the dances I remember going to, they were never this romantic and beautiful because you were all like anxious, crushingly anxious about asking anybody to dance and wanting, longing after the kid that you wish you could dance with and don't know whether to ask. We did go roller skating and that was fun.
We went roller skating, yep, I remember going to an 8th grade dance, and I remember roller skating every weekend when I was a freshman in high school. So that was fun.
But
Yeah.
always these nostalgic memories of the school dances are the way you wish it had been, not the way it actually was.
Well, I don't know, Dustin gets turned down a lot every time he asks somebody, he looks really dejected, and that's pretty accurate,
Well, then Nancy
I
dances
think.
with him, and
It
then,
was sweet,
well,
yes,
yeah.
because he had
So there's
yeah,
an out, right? So it's not
right,
nearly as painful as it actually was, for goodness sake,
correct. Yeah,
right?
yeah, it was
Uh,
painful.
so no, but that so right, and evoking that to say, um, watching here now we have the friends group, the great hug, and then with them in the bus. Um, we're always going to have friends, and that's what this is nostalgia for.
Yeah, and I like the way that they're also portraying them kind of, their friendships are well, they expanded their circle, but also they tend to break off and get further away from each other as they grow up and develop interest in girls, right? Because that always breaks up Yoko's always gonna break up the Beatles kind
Oh
of thing,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's, so that's I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Right. So, but here now we get to the nub and the pain. Okay. the, what is it showing? The show is appealing because you get wrapped up in the characters, and you get wrapped up in the characters who are fictional, right?
Mhm.
Because they have something, even though they're going through trauma and fighting monsters and stuff like that, they are given something in the story that you long for fundamentally, right? The
Mhm.
nostalgia is a projection of something that you wish you had had, from my perspective, that you wish you had had that was never quite there in the. And so if we go back to the houses, right? It's like they're actual houses with
Mhm.
exteriors. But the thing, okay, and I've got Yon God saying, oh wait, no, he's talking to River Run right now. Uh, you guys must have watched plenty of 40s, 60s stuff in the 80s. Well, yeah, because I mean, the television shows, the reruns, the
Right.
60s stuff like Dick Van Dyke Show or Leave
I
It to
Love Lucy.
Beaver, I Lived Lucy. Those were on television in the
Yeah.
afternoon, so you could watch those when you were a
Yeah,
latchkey kid when you came home and your mom was going to be home for
well,
hours.
yeah. Turner, I say Turner Classic Network, whatever, that just killed, that just killed old movies on TV anymore. Everything went to cable at sometime in the '90s, but yeah, when we were growing up, I was born in 1967, so when we were growing up, there was a lot of old movies and a lot of old shows, from even the 1930s all the way through the '60s that were still on television, and this was slightly before, uh, video stores came out and you could just rent them anytime you wanted. That also killed it a little bit too, because I think what happened was these stations would get these shows really cheap, and then they would play them because they didn't have to pay a fee, I think.
Right.
Not exactly sure how that worked, but, so yeah, saw a lot of them. Everybody's a buff. Everybody's a
So
film buff our
so
age because of
the
it.
the effect of watching shows about homes that aren't yours is
Mhm.
that I find this, and this is a really haunting problem for me, um, that you can fall in love with the set that you see these
Oh, yeah.
characters interacting in, and it's
Mhm.
been the rest of your life haunted by the sense that that's what a home is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Even if like we had, we had a house that looked more like the levels of the Wheelers, right? We did actually have like shutters, and we had a porch with columns on it and stuff. And so
I'm pretty
that
sure I've
two-story
been in
kind of
their house.
house. What?
I'm pretty sure I've been in that house many times when I was in high school. That was a really typical design.
Right. Yeah.
Nancy's house, yeah.
And the house we had in Louisville had, these two-story, four-bedroom houses were a standard construction in those suburbs, right?
Mhm.
But okay, so there are two things that I'm thinking about here. One, the nostalgia for a house, which I live in an apartment right now. I am still so pathetically attached to the idea of getting to have a house, and I probably will never live in a house again, because I'm in the city in a place where it's too expensive to get a house. And so I grew up in a house and I can't have a house. And this is something that tugs at me a lot. But the feeling of having things happening in that house. I mean, I think the whole problem of it is it's a set and events happen there, and you turn your television on and you see events happening there in the house, and it creates a longing for something that even if you were there at the time you didn't have,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, definitely.
And the thing is, I think there's a similar sort of thing with like what they do at the school. There's all this pain and agony in lockers, and you have drama around the lockers and stuff like that. But
Yeah, I'm remembering some right
and the,
now.
and the
Yeah, it's funny.
dance and the bullies and stuff like that. I mean, I was actually bullied, but it wasn't by anybody at school. It was in the neighborhood at home, and we were 10, not high school age. Um,
Mhm.
and I do actually have some meditations on how inaccurate the representation of bullies in the movies always is, because it's more how you felt rather than actually what happened.
Oh, no, I had it bad,
Okay,
worse than Elle
all right,
got it.
you did then please tell, right?
I mm.
Mm, well, no, okay,
I
so
was
this
I was
is
11. Okay, I was 11, it was 13 on 1, and, they didn't just throw a milkshake on me.
oh, and
So and,
did you
luckily,
fight them? Did someone
they didn't
rescue
no, it
you?
was no, no, the teacher was there, she ignored it. It was the gym teacher.
And it was in
Um,
gym?
yeah, it was in the gym. Yeah, literally surrounded me in a circle and was pulling my hair and slapping me and
Wow.
screaming at me, and oh,
Oh,
yeah, it was violent
Casey.
as hell. I have some stories.
I do.
So,
Where?
yeah.
Which topic now? We're gonna hear. No, but but the thing is, this is this image. Okay, what you just described. It's like, did you have a friend group?
No, because I just moved there. I was new. So what was interesting and what I love what the Duffer Brothers have done in making all of these people so complex and giving little glimpses of what their life is like, right? Because Elle can see like into Billy's memories, really deep into his memories,
Right.
and you figure out how he got that way.
Right.
So the girl that instigated the gang up on me, I'd seen her home. I met her parents. Her father was scary as hell.
Right.
I never met anybody scarier. And I knew at that instant why she was like that, and she was very violent, and, yeah, I don't think things went well for her, in the years following that, but I don't wanna give any details because that will be wrong,
No,
but,
so actually, so
yeah,
the girls that bullied me, and it was girls, right? It wasn't because they were the popular ones. That's what I was saying about the bullying is a little different from the way it's portrayed.
yeah.
The
No, it's not the popular one, it's the jealous one, or the one that feels threatened in some way. Not
right.
I don't mean physically threatened, I mean, like, your presence here is disturbing me, and I don't know why. I think I'll just punch you. It's kinda like that, you know?
No, and they did the girls that bullied me was when we just moved to the neighborhood too. And
Mhm.
so yeah, and it's yeah, so that's real, right? I definitely see that is something. But the agony that I had, and guys, why am I not surprised? Like, I'm nostalgic watching this for something I never quite had, and when we finally got it, we moved. Right? It's like
Yeah.
we were
Oh, I know.
right?
Every 3
Finally
years, yeah,
finally got a really good group of friends my freshman year in high school, and we moved.
same here. And we moved, it was I was a sophomore, and it was like, yeah, I had a great group of friends, and it's like, well, take take 'em out, we're gonna leave now," you know? So, like,
Yeah, and then
start
it
over
was, 3 years in high
again.
school, and then we went to college, right? So and then I'm in college in the early '80s, finally getting, some group the group of friends that played not Dungeons and Dragons, but RuneQuest, right? Um, and but it's the achingly beautiful thing that they keep. It's like romance, right? This is a romance of friendship that they've written into this story. I hope the Duffers actually had friends. That would be nice if they're actually recreating something that they had, as opposed to
Mhm.
they're describing something that nobody quite has at the level that these characters go through. Right? It's like they're so
Yeah.
supportive and caring for. I mean, it's like when Elle rescues Mike because he's having to step off the cliff, which is what comes into this scene where they're hugging, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, that's
you have
what's
this feeling of someone will be here to catch me. I'm gonna cry.
well, now remember, these what these kids are going through is war. So the friendships that they're forging are forged in real, actual blood. Like Billy's blood, and there's a lot of violence and death, and they're essentially they're in a war, and so their bonds are going to be stronger because of that too.
Well,
So
but
it's not
it's
exactly reality.
as a war story. Then it's like it's interesting that Hopper has the backstory of being in Vietnam. I mean, the reason my dad left and the reason we moved around so much is A, being in the service, B, he got depressed being in Thailand as a
Hmm.
surgeon.
Yeah.
stitching together the guys who were there in the war.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, so Jan
Yeah.
God was making a joke about the nostalgia for surviving dysfunction, but this is, I mean, the trauma bonds are, interestingly saying the helicopter parenting has taken away the possibility of a real risk. And so the reason this is
Yeah.
so appealing is, yes, you'd be in some kind, and why stay up and watch it all in one go, right? The Dungeons and Dragons gaming level was pretend war, right? Which create bonds
Yeah.
of being
Oh,
in
wow,
that
that's deep.
game. Well,
Layers and
I hadn't
layers.
thought of it until you said it. Yeah, they're in a war and they're bonding at that level, and it's being able to come through that kind of crisis that creates
Mhm.
that this sense of, you know well, it's funny to me that Hopper is in whichever one. Is it 3 when he's in the Magnum PI shirt? Although
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
bad Magnum PI shirt, right?
Yeah, somebody calls him Magnum. Yeah, that was funny.
Right, because
Yeah.
he's
It's got a
clearly
mustache.
meant to be that, right? It's like what Magnum would be in real life, right? Not in sort of, Tom Selleck and all sexy and everything in a like an actual cool Hawaiian shirt. But
In real
Tom's
life, Magnum's, like, all traumatized and drinks too much.
well, yes, but the thing is, Magnum. The
Pretty
point
funny.
of Magnum is that he's a vet, right? And his friend who flies the helicopter, they were in the war together. So, if you've done a deep dive and binge watched Magnum, you realize they get to some really interesting episodes fairly deep in the series
Mm.
where
I
you
never
have
watched I never was a fan. Yeah.
war memories of them, and that's
Okay.
how that you're right, you right now are totally accurate. The reason the kids are bonded like this is because they're in a war.
Mhm.
Interesting
Yeah.
thought. I'm out of wine, so I'm down to water now. Oh my goodness. But in that sense, then it's utterly fictional. It's romantic in the sense of you have this mythic level of monster to fight, and that creates the kind of fellowship, just as in the Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
right? It's like you have to
Right.
have this mythic level of monster to end up bonded at the level that these kids are.
Right. Vecna's at it again. My little light went out behind me, just so you know.
I've you gotta power your stuff up.
I checked it, I swear. I swear I checked it.
Hey, no, these things. Look, come
I'll do
on.
it again.
It's mine. The battery bars aren't even gone right now. You can set it at
Neither
lower.
are mine.
Mine's at 50%. You get longer on your light if you don't run it at 100. We're gonna like desperately bonded over our streaming together. You realize, like all of the trauma of trying to be like smooth and cool about. Okay, so that's it.
Okay,
All
I've
right.
never been
So
cold. Just I told you,
I've
I'm Barb. Of all the kids, I'm Barb.
I see you as more of a Max, but anyway.
Max is cool, I like her.
Yeah, no, you've told me some of the stuff you used to do. I think you're more of a Max. I don't know what am I even in the story? I mean, I obviously want to be Elle since it's my name, Rachel. But,
You're a
yeah,
bit you're
that's an
you're
interesting
a bit like
problem.
you're a bit like Nancy because she's investigative a lot. That's what
I
you do
am
in your
not at all
reading.
like Nancy.
Sort of bit.
No, because I would have never
Oh,
had a chance of a hope and a snowball in the underside, the upside down with the guys that she gets. Are you kidding
with
me?
Steve, yeah.
Never. It's like zero
Everybody had the
ever.
Steve story.
If
Everybody wanted to date Steve.
okay, there were some really cute guys on the swim team, granted, in high school, granted. They were not interested in me. They always already had girlfriends. I know I'm not Nancy, all right? Mike level, yes. See, so I can imagine that. Like Elle and Mike, this is the dysfunctional power fantasy that I have. Are you kidding me? So we have some other kinds of friends groups, right? So that they are this one, I don't know. I'm just collecting. It's so easy now that I know all the pictures. And Mel, thank you for collecting them again. I could not do these preps without our River Run. Um, that the series like pups friendship groups, right? So you have the primary one of the four, the party, but then you say the girls come in, and then you have new girls like Robin and Erica, and then you have Al going off to find out whether or not the Chicago moment when she finds her sister, and that's yet another different another layer of French group, and where am I going with this?
You were going
It's
to,
nice. It's nice in the writing that you end up with these different kinds of friend groups, each of them with different kinds of
yes,
difficulties.
yes, as you would find in the wild, as you would find in the real world.
Right. But they all, I mean, what's funny about it is, except for the one with Kali, I do think that character. I mean, come on, their name. We're gonna have to do a whole episode on just the names of the characters. But you name this disruptive force character Kali. Are you kidding me? Of course, she's gonna go
Yeah,
around collecting skulls. So it's
yeah.
a bit of
She's
a
not a nice
giveaway.
character.
Which this
Yeah,
means Al's name as God is actually intentional. If Kali the goddess is her
of course.
sister, yeah. So
Yeah,
we're taking your naming seriously, Duffers.
I think
Um,
they did too. And their dates, man, that was that was intense.
okay, so
Anyway,
it's foreshadowing. There'll be streams on the Christian
yes,
details that are actually stuffed full in this story. Um,
they're like delicious little Easter eggs everywhere.
think about friend groups. I mean, it's not just the boys and their being disrupted by girls problem, and it's not just so all of the subgroups, all of the sets of
Well,
groups, they're all going through
yeah.
wars of different sorts, right? So they have different kinds of
Mhm.
adventures and different problems to solve. This is actually, I mean, I suppose in Dungeons and Dragons terms, they're doing a really nice job of mixing up different character types.
Yes. Yeah, because those will always make the most interesting campaigns. So I've heard. I don't play it.
No, but this
Mm.
maybe this I hadn't thought of it until now. It's like they're trying out different kinds. Like you've got well, I can't even do this off the top of my head because I don't know the character types. But you got the wizard, the elf, the hobbit,
The rogue.
okay, all up in one set, and you get its other set,
Yeah.
and that each of them have different kinds of adventures to have to solve. Well, that makes sense. River
I
Run,
also
it's
just thought
Kali
sorry.
Yoga. It's the Kali Yuga. It's the Kali um uh era, right? The Kali Yuga is it's like from Indiana Jones, right? When they Kali,
Yeah,
who the Thugi serve and give human sacrifices to.
right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Mm. No, I was just gonna say, I thought of one more relationship. We were thinking about the different relationships that are
Mm,
presented in the
mm.
show, and I love, Dustin and Steve, their relationship, because
Yes.
they become bros. They really become really close bros, because Steve is a senior and Dustin is a freshman, and that does happen a lot. People will become friends with somebody who is going to graduate and go away, and that
Mm-hmm.
makes it really tough for them too, and so you could see them, going through that too. And being, Dustin being a freshman and how awkward that is. He and Mike are trying to fit in. So then you have Dustin and Mike, and Will has not Mike, I'm sorry. You did have Dustin and Mike. This was before Mike moved away. I'm getting 3 and 4 mixed up now because I just started watching 4.
This is
So
the
you
problem
see
with
them,
watching these all two.
yeah,
Each of the
binging 'em.
seasons is actually it's season 1 and 2 fit together pretty well in the sense it's a long arc of what happens to Will, but 3 is different, and then 4 is different again. And
Yeah.
I was trying to keep us I was trying to give us some scope of talking about them independently, but they blend. um,
Well, they're kinda supposed to, I think. One blends into the other. Yeah, you lose all sense of time when you're watching these, which is another really weird phenomenon. And I think it might have something to do with the trick that they've done that you and Mel were talking about earlier today, where this is something Netflix did, where you're
mhm.
watching a show and immediately it starts again. So the next show will start immediately without you having to choose it. It'll just automatically start playing the
Right,
second episode.
so you have to even
Right,
you can't never mind get off the couch, you can reach for the
right.
remote. Unless you
The
pause it, it
second
keeps going, right?
Yeah, the second thing that they did was they had these really long intros. So you forgot you were in the show, and then suddenly the show name will come up, and it's like, oh, it's just starting now, but it's just been playing for 5 minutes, right?
Mhm.
So that when the end of the show came for me, I went, wow, that was a really long intro because I just kind of lost all
Oh,
track of time.
like which episode you don't even which episode you were in? Like
Yeah,
where you were in
right.
the episode.
Yeah, at which my husband started laughing at me and said, "You just watched a whole show. What are you talking about? What is wrong with you?" I'm sorry. I'm in a time warp.
Well, they okay, so it's excellent storycraft because they
Mhm.
always end. I found out the only way to stop in the watching tips, guys, is you got to just stop in the middle of the episode.
You can't
B-
stop. Yeah, I
b-
can stop anytime I want,
no, you
play.
can't. But if you're going to be able to stop, you have to stop in the middle of an episode because the end of the episode is always in you're
Yeah.
dropped straight into something that you want the solution to. So, oh, keep
Yes.
going, right?
Yeah.
But in that sense, I mean, they're basically doing a Dickensian serial in perfect
Mm.
form, right? It's like those if you read Dickens novels, and my memory of this reading Great Expectations in high school was like this, realizing that that was what he was doing. It's like every single chapter ended on a cliffhanger, so you keep
Well, he
going.
well, they were serialized originally, weren't they, in magazines?
And
His
so
stories? Yeah.
yes, and so the Duffers, that they've written them in chapters, and that it feels like not just one campaign, but a one book. It's they're
Yeah.
using the art form to its strengths, which is fine. It's like it's as if you read the whole book in one sitting. I
Mhm.
fault them not a bit on this.
Good job.
This is well, no, come on. This is hardly, scrolling TikTok videos, right? It's
Yeah.
it's 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 actually, watching a long, incredibly deeply
Oh, it
crafted,
yeah, it's incredibly engaging. It
um,
really is.
you know, character driven story. So kudos there. But okay, so the friend groups, right? Just as a selection, I have Steve and Dustin here, and that one's
Mhm.
really nice. And this is another layer of the where's the toxic masculinity. It's like the one like the toxic masculinity is Mike and Nancy's dad is literally a bit of a bum in the sense of he makes money and he sleeps on his lazy boy, and it's like, but he doesn't really do anything, right? He doesn't like yell at them or terrorize them or anything.
No.
They get to have all these adventures and nothing ever happens, right? He's a bit of a wasted character, I think, but okay, so he's a doorstop. The mayor, uh, the cardboard guys in the news office, which whatever, right? But there's
Yeah, that was over the top, I thought.
yeah.
Yeah.
And and there's some true villains like, oh, Billy, but we find out, we have to, have sympathy for him in some respects, but he dies well, okay? Uh that most of there's a lot of male characters that do really well. And Steve is
Mhm.
I love that Steve turned out he was supposed to be a cardboard character. He was
Yeah.
supposed to be simply the athlete guy that you're supposed to hate. And credit to the actor, right? That's not what happened. And
Mhm.
there's so much hope in it that saying not only does Barb, we have to have justice for Barb because of the way the fans responded, but the Duffers are also writing. They're enough like dungeon mastering this with the way their actors are responding. That Steve turned into a really interesting character who
Mhm.
takes Dustin under his wing and teaches him how to
Yeah,
do
that
his
was so
hair.
sweet.
It's just
Yeah.
so cute. And
Fabergé Organics.
like how am I gonna be? I'm gonna get the girls, and how it's like Fonzie only better, right?
Yeah.
It's like Fonzie trying to give Richie lessons on how to be cool, right?
Oh gosh, that was so cringe.
But the guys learning how to be better boyfriends, right? Mike
Yeah.
and Elle, and Elle having to learn how to be a girlfriend, which she's not terrifically good at, right? And then
And learn how to be her own person too, right? Because she needs a bit of freedom too, and Max told her this, well, I thought, and what was interesting about that episode was that at the end of it, she says to Mike, well, he says, well, that's just your dad. That's just Hopper telling you he's just being an old man. He says, well, what if he's right? You're the only person I see. So maybe I should
Right.
see some other people besides you and him.
Right.
And she was right about that. And that's good advice for any young girl, you know?
So I have one. I think Hopper. We have a whole father daughter arc too. With oh no, that's wait. I've got. Hmm. Eh, there's the father daughter arc, right? That obviously Hopper is trying to learn how to be a good dad,
Yes.
and there's nothing that I have seen that I've enjoyed quite so much in modern television as seeing Hopper being given a chance as a character,
Mm.
right? It's like it's not just like the fat Magnum cop guy.
No.
He's like he's tyrannical and 3 inches. You have to keep your door open when you're kissing your boyfriend all the time, and
Oh, I'm
temper
sorry. He
tantrum.
made a mistake there. They should not have been in a room alone together at
Well,
all.
okay, fine. The great temper tantrum scene, which was apparently quite explosive
It was
to film.
accurate.
Yeah, it was. Well, apparently it
Yeah,
was rather intense to for them to do. Right, the sort of
I
acting,
bet.
the
It looked
acting
very
of it
realistic.
apparently was right. And but the thing is, he actually gets to. Unlike the Bart Simpson character, not Bart Simpson, Homer Simpson
Homer.
characters for the whole of the last 3 decades, where
Mhm.
dads are either jokes or oh wait, jokes, right? Hopper gets to one. He gets to by four a fair degree of heroics that he gets to participate in, but actually trying to be a better dad. So
He was. He
like,
has an
how do we end
amazing
up with this show? This should not exist. Toxic patriarchy and all, right? We haven't even had patriarchy for
I
decades.
know, I know, well, yeah. He has amazing, reserves of inner strength, and the actor does he shows that beautifully, and it's a beautifully written character, as you just pointed out. The cardboard cutout of the men in the office, and I did get condescension when I first started working from some older men,
Mm,
and I also got mentored by some older men and some older women,
right.
who weren't jerks. So it's not that they're the patriarchy, it's just that sometimes jerks congregate. There are
There's
sometimes
collections of
just a
jerks.
gaggle of jerks, okay? But there's also good people out there too. It's like, yeah, both exist in the same timeline. It's it's not either or. It's this and that. Both things happened.
Right. Well, and that I mean, they're giving. So I had some other options of storylines in here that we have the different friend groups that Max and Elle um being girlfriends, which is
Yeah, that was nice. That was a nice development for both of them because they both needed friendship so badly.
right. I'm a little confused about that's from season 3 when they go to the mall and stuff like that, and I'm a little confused about whether this is a good or bad thing. When she's like, I'm gonna teach you to be the consumer shopper. You know,
I think the idea was she was trying to teach her how to do girly things because she really and they had already hinted this. She really just wanted to be girly so badly. And so she said, "Well, I'm gonna take you shopping, show where all the clothes are." She said, "Well, what do you wanna wear?" Right? Because all she'd always just grabbed whatever was lying around.
right.
She was raised for some reason, and I don't understand why they would do this. Maybe it was just to strip them down and then build them into the assassins they wanted them to be, but they weren't allowed to keep their hair. They weren't allowed to wear any clothes. Were always wearing hospital gowns.
Yeah, I
And then
found that a
after
little
that,
strange. I mean, they do get the sweats eventually when they're doing the
yeah,
different training. I think the idea of shaving their heads is so they can put the electrode nets on their heads. It's easy. It's
maybe.
easier to do the brain scan stuff.
But they're also completely breaking their personality.
Oh,
They're flattening
definitely,
it.
definitely. So it's
So
like the prisoners in
right.
the
So
Russian.
her going to the mall with Max, that was just let's go be girls. But wow, I can't wait to tell. What do you mean? You've never seen a mall? I mean, think about if you were her age and a young girl or your age said, "What's a mall? I would like to go shopping." You would like be thrilled. Yeah, girls shopping day. I hung out at the mall a lot with my friends. Just window shopping. So I totally got that. I thought that was I thought that was pretty spot on. I didn't think that was about consumerism. I thought it was about being a girl.
Well, okay, one, it's funny that Max herself is not that girly of a girl. Because the first thing we see of her is, that she's the Max who's beating their
Yeah.
computer game or their
No,
their
she's a
arcade game.
tomboy.
She's a tomboy,
Yeah.
right?
She's a tomboy, but she's still pretty. She's still feminine, though.
I,
You
that
know,
that
there's
that my point more, it's like if we're going to go for the terror things that come out of the 80s, one of them is supposed to be the malls, right? Which is what happens in 3 when that becomes the place where they have to have the big battle, right? The mall
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
the mall being celebrated as a place of it's like of all of the things that I find sort of curiously conflicted, not the town. I mean, it's like, oh, small town America, that's where all the toxic stuff is. And I'm like, oh, give me a break. Um, but the mall as a place where you're in this completely artificial shopping, interior shopping space. They're completely of the 80s because they were dying by
Yes.
they were dying by the ends of the 90s, right? It's like the
Yeah.
mall was a moment. It didn't actually last that long as the shopping
It was
thing.
about yeah, it was about this it was just like the clothes that she picked. They were frivolous. It was frivolity. It was just pure fun. It didn't have any other redeeming value. It didn't need to kind of thing. It was just a place where teenagers went to hang out a lot.
Well, the what it was supposed to be was it was supposed to be like the plazas in European towns. It was supposed to be
Oh,
a
was it?
pedestrian place. Yeah, that the original conception of malls was that they would be a place where because the cities don't have those shopping areas,
Oh, right.
but unfortunately as they show in Hawkins, it draws all the business off of the main street,
Yes.
which had been the shopping area, and then you
Right.
all end up doing the social part of your day. It's in these spaces. It's meant to be
And that
third
was real.
spaces, right? It's the space where you
Yeah.
go to be social, like you said, right? You hanging out with your friends, and
Mhm.
it's this place of, but it's a fake place, right? That's the problem with the malls. They're like Disneyland for shopping.
I don't know. I wouldn't say they're fake place. I'd say they're less they have less character than a downtown would.
Hmm.
Right, but they
That's
were
right.
new and they were clean and they had good security back then. That all stopped when people stopped, when towns decided they didn't want to prosecute crime anymore, and then that killed them. But, Walmart also killed the small shopping areas in small towns
Right.
too. So Walmart was like a much less interesting big mall basically because they sold everything there. And then Amazon came along and started killing off the malls and the Walmarts. And, then the Biden administration killed it dead, like, stuck a stake in its heart by forcing them all to close down.
Right.
I do know somebody personally who lost her business, and it was a thriving business, a thriving small
Because of
business.
the lockdowns.
Yep, and it was a place where a lot of old people would like to go and have breakfast. It was a diner. It was a wonderful place,
Mm.
and just heartless. These people were heartless, and they just drove a stake through it. So, we should never let that happen again.
Well, interestingly, the department stores did the same thing to the local shops, right? Back in the early 20th century. So
There were
place
malls like Marshall
Marshall
Fields.
Fields and Macy's and such, they were just so all of these aggregating market
Mhm.
spaces that the older version seems nostalgic and longed for, and the newer one is killing all the businesses.
I wonder if they said the same thing about Harrods when it opened
Oh,
up.
absolutely. Yes. Yes. That's
Yeah.
that's the
How old is it?
so I there the American shopping the American department stores, I read a book that was talking about them, and they're late, it's a phenomenon of the late 19th century
Right,
and
right.
early
I th
20th
but I
century,
think
yeah.
but I think Harrods goes back even later, doesn't it? Even earlier?
In the 19th century, it's sometime in the 19th,
Oh,
probably.
I thought
They're
it was
not
older
that
than that.
old. No, I mean,
Okay,
well, none of
I'm
them are. It's
mistaken.
and like Marshall Fields here was, it's early 20th century. It's got the Tiffany
Mhm.
roof and things like that.
Oh, I had
But
been in it, it's
it's
gorgeous.
I was in there not so long ago, and I was telling you all, it was empty.
Yep, I
And when
remember, and
I
that makes
moved
me
here,
so sad.
that was the place I loved to go shop. We were not supposed to end up here on shopping. Maybe women do like to go
You know,
shopping, and
we do, that's
Max
the
is
point,
right
and in malls.
to take Elle shopping.
She was thrilled, it was so sweet to watch too.
Yes,
She's like,
no,
"Ooh, yes, yes."
that was a nice girlfriend
Yeah.
But what's in I am interested, like, which of the character here we've got Steve and Dustin, which is developed really nicely and beautifully. Uh, Elle and Mike, I think, needs some work in the writing. Just, it could be better. Um, and I'm not quite sure why it's developed in exactly the way it has, because I feel like it's there's a tension there that is missing. Max and Elle, I mean, it's interesting that they resolved the jealousy that Elle has of Max, and then it's
Yeah.
evaporated, right? And I
Mhm.
like so it's they're playing out some of these tensions really well, and others of them, we in our writing Draco Chemicus, as I keep warning you and Mel, it's hard to keep all of the characters in play. There's
Yeah.
somebody pointing out that what Steve has never said anything to Will.
See, yeah, I think that was a meme I saw. Steve is it was a conspiracy meme. Steve has never talked to Will directly. What does it
What
mean?
does it
It's like, oh,
mean?
please
Well,
don't do this to me.
so possibly you're not able to develop absolutely every relationship that's
Yeah,
there.
right.
Um, I do well with Elle and Mike's relationship. There is the thing that one is never actually nostalgic for ever again after you've been 13 and 14 and 15 and have to live through this age. Oh my gosh, never, please.
Never again.
Never
No.
again.
Nope. Not gonna be 13 and forever. Not even if I can take my 57-year-old brain with me, I'm not gonna do it.
It's so horrifically awkward. So they have actually captured that pretty nicely,
Yeah, they
and
did.
the it's cringe making excruciating difficulty of even being the ones that everybody recognizes as boyfriend and girlfriend. I don't know.
Mhm.
I have the problem with writing these teen romances. That was one of my movies that I was watching when I was that age. A Little Romance. They meet in
Oh, I remember that.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
that was
meet in
Winona Ryder and
Paris, and they run away to did they run away? Did they get they somehow make some kind of trip, right?
I don't think I saw it.
It's in Europe, and they go to the museums and things like that. So I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Mhm.
It's not Room with a View. That's a different
That
they
was a period piece.
that's a period
Yeah.
piece, and that's set in Florence. But um the sort of excruciating awkwardness of the first kiss period. Oh my gosh, please. The thing. How do you ever survive this, right? And
I don't think you do.
I,
Just comes back in flashback.
the horror, the horror.
The
But so,
horror.
but
Yeah.
and therefore, this being the thing that I think of the meta level or the deep level or the realistic level of we have to coming of age is a real problem.
Yeah.
There's no easy way through it, and when we talk about the monsters and when it's like the degree to which that the sexuality of the characters is actually the monstrous thing, because in interesting ways they're pretty underplaying it, right? It's a
Mm.
the, Elle has friction with Hopper over her kissing Mike all the time. Oh, I
Mhm.
skipped to the teenagers again. And then the teenager, we talked about the teenagers a bit last time, right? It's like it's interesting how they've developed from Nancy's supposed to be with Steve. Steve's supposed to be the particular kind of jerk that he is. Nancy ends up with Jonathan, and then the three of them end up teamed up together. I mean, there's a large layer of fantasy romance in that, and that they don't end up in some horrible triangle, and yet they didn't. Kissing braces, barf. Okay, Mel, thank you so much. I don't know. It's like there's certain things that they're exploring really well, and there are other things that are missed opportunities. There are other things that the my okay my main thing being I think there's a sweetness to all of these relationships that they're um not messing with, right? They
Mhm.
and for me in the sense of the nostalgia or the fantasy here is that these friendships just are so strong for all of these characters, and I I don't know how realistic that is.
Well, like I said, it wouldn't be they're in extraordinary circumstances. This is, as I said, these are battle forged friendships
Mm.
that they already had a strong friend group, and it got stronger of necessity, and it expanded of necessity.
Well, I'm not sure it's supposed to be realistic, or what
No, of
is
course
it,
not.
right? It's
Also, it would just be a boring soap opera, but it's
right.
not a soap opera, and it's not boring at all. And it is, and then the way people interact with each other is very realistic. I think the relationships are super realistic.
Well, I'm saying they are and they aren't, right? And this is the level at which you get the criticism of, okay, so here we get now, go past Hopper to the reality of that these are actors with the desire that you have for this kind of bonding.
Mm.
And here I've got mom, as it were, Joyce with the boys versus Winona with some of them. She's
Oh,
right. I think
yeah.
right. So, um, where was I going with this?
I don't know. You don't think that you think there's a missed opportunity somewhere. Where do you think they missed? What do you think they missed?
Oh, I mean, I don't think there's big things they missed. I think one that like if there's relationships of between the characters, like Will has never talked to Steve or Steve never talked to Will, that it's just that if you're trying to weave together all of these different sub sub stories, it's
Mhm.
difficult to you don't like round robin everybody and make sure that absolutely everybody interacts with everybody else.
Right, because that's when you get bad, like, stilted writing, so
Yeah, well, that's
that
sort
wouldn't
of
be good.
nonsense because indeed, not every group overlaps in all ways, and they
Correct.
and they're constantly, the more they converge in the finale of it's like who are you, right? Where did you come from? Why are you a part of this, Erica? What are you doing here, right?
Yeah.
So that's it has some level of comedy, but no, but I'm thinking the main theme being the nostalgia for what, which we've been playing with, right? And the degree to which
Mhm.
we recognize or don't the kinds of things that the scholarly criticism is pointing to as the show fighting, which we think is nonsense because it doesn't seem to be fighting it in the terms that the scholar the standard scholarly take would presume, because if you're in the mid in the teens, the 20 teens, you are supposed to be making these sorts of arguments about society, and
Yeah, yeah,
it
it's
seems
just
to
I
be
heard the same.
avoiding those, which is very strange and
It is.
interesting.
It is
Yeah.
it is avoiding those, and that's why I said not entirely joking, the scholarship that you just read about the show, chapter 1 of the book that you're reading
It was
from
actually
Butler.
chapter 8 or something, right?
Oh, was it 8?
Yeah.
Okay. I think maybe you just said it was just 1 chapter,
It's
but
one.
there are
I
things
said
they
you heard one. It's one chapter in
yeah,
a book with a variety of authors, and this one particularly being on the family dynamics, which is what we're talking about today.
right. I
Um,
was I was forced to take a college, course, called Women in Literature, and I didn't need to take a women in literature course because there are plenty of fantastic women writers, so they didn't need this was part of women's studies, but the college I was going to at the time decided you needed to take, a minority, type and they consider women on we're the 51% minority, right? That was the tagline back then too.
we all did lots of women's studies in the 80s, guys.
Right. We did. We
It's
d
it
it
was a
they
thing. We all took them.
and it was stupid, but for reasons that'll just get us off topic, so I'll try to stay on topic. The kinds of things she's saying, it sounds like things that people were expected to say if they were giving interviews on TV, especially PBS in the early 90s.
Yes,
Everything's the patriarchy,
right.
everything's, hyper conservative, and those are bad. And they would I don't even think conservative in liberal means anything anymore. I mean, liberal certainly doesn't mean what it meant 100 years ago, or even 50 years ago, or 25 years ago. You could probably say the same thing for conservative. I just think people like pigeonholing people, and the writers, the Duffer Brothers, avoided this altogether. They did have, we're fighting the Russians, and these are the evil government people here, but okay, that's just a framework, right? It's a framework for their story about monsters and the relationships that are forged in fighting the monsters. Okay, and it was a really good framework. But when they had a main character, they avoided this altogether. They avoided these stereotypes, and that was good because people aren't stereotypes.
Right, but the monsters that everybody has been told that we're supposed to fight for the last 30 years are the patriarchy.
Because it's
And the
distracting
ideal
you from a
so
bigger monster,
well what this chapter
a
is
real one.
but right, but her premise is, and this being the premise of horror, we pointed to this a little bit last week, that the premise of horror is that you are using the monsters to exteriorize the actual, I mean, it's usually the social relationships that you're not able to express otherwise, right? And that they use that a bit
Mhm.
in with Billy, right? That he's susceptible to possession because of the way in which his father has traumatized him. So
Because the emotional trauma,
right,
right?
because of the emotional trauma. And that kind of, I mean, we've been inundated with this for decades, that the men are the problem always, that identity is not, it should not be confined to your nuclear family, which, as that was my point about saying what nuclear family, right? It's like it's been
Yeah.
falling apart since I was 11, as far as I was
Mhm.
concerned. So yeah, having a traditional family would have been kind of nice, actually, if my stepmother hadn't lured my father away from my family because he was so traumatized by the Vietnam War. Thank you very much. Excuse me. Where do you get off with this claim that I'm actually pretty angry about this. Maybe you've
Mm.
noticed that no, I am, because it's a fiction that has corrupted. I mean, the monstrous that we've been fighting for decades now is the lie of exactly what the problem was.
Yeah. The problem wasn't the family. That wasn't the problem. There have been violent men throughout history,
Yes.
and other violent men put them in their place.
Yes.
That happened too, and I have stories about that too. And, going back to my family here, listening to my uncles, my great uncles talk about it, and people talk about things they did to men who weren't behaving,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
That was a real thing, and that was a common thing. The family wasn't the problem, right? People being dragged away from their family by promises of shiny things here and there, and all of your other, your boredom will go away.
Mm.
All of these lies, and I don't like having to say this, but it's true. It's boredom, I think,
Mm.
that leads to most marriages breaking up, and not um, and not some kind of violence. Violence does happen. Nobody should stay married if there's violence around ever. That's a horrible idea. But I don't think that was the main, in starting in about 1950 on. I don't think that was the main thing that was driving the divorce rate, which has never gone above 50%. So it's marriage is still normal in this country. Yes, think even now. But I think it was just, I think it was just distractions. They did show this in the show when Nancy was about to cheat with Billy and changes her mind, even though she's bored out of her mind. She's clearly bored out of her mind because all her husband does
Not
is ever
Nancy,
sleep.
her mom. Nancy's mom.
Sorry, Nancy's mom,
Yeah.
right? Nancy's mom, she's clearly bored out of her mind, because her husband, like you said, he's just kind of, all he does is sleep. He's older than her. He looks like he's about 20 years older than her.
Right,
She
he's
looks like
supposed to
she's
be
in her
older.
thirties. Yeah,
Nancy explains that to Jonathan. They get married
right.
so that she'd have a nice house, and she has a nice house,
Right.
and she decorates it, and she gets. I
Has a
mean,
nice
it.
house. She has three healthy kids.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
got what she wanted. She's still bored. Right? And so a lot of people were enticed away from that. Like, you have to live your truth and find your happiness, and
That's where I'm
ah,
getting to, right? And
yeah.
in the sense, okay, so we've been talking about the friendships, and then this sort of, intensity of found family is the real family.
Yeah, you're right. That's a very comfortable lie. I mean, you can have a found family. It's true, but I wouldn't say that therefore your nuclear family is bad, and it's not realistic, and it's not going to happen, and it's just an ideal. It's not. It's the norm. It's still the norm.
Well, what I was thinking, and this is I have they're all the actors they're in their like present form, grown up, right? All for that interview that they've just done on what being in season 5, I guess. Juxtaposed with the Wheelers as the family, the character, mom, dad, 3 kids, right? Um, Constantly, and this has been so the massive anxiety that we are told, and this is where the like whose nostalgia is this, and with my opening monologue, right, about like I never felt like, I felt like I had friends when I was growing up, but I also had a lot of not friends in,
Same. Yeah.
and not just, I mean, there was only one like real set of bullies and I fought them, and then I grew up. um Well, as you do, but I didn't have the friends that I wished I'd had in the fantasy version that these characters get to have in their trauma situation. Okay, whatever. Um, I'm sorry, I lost where I was going there.
You're so tired.
S-
Binge watching.
well,
This woman's a
also
maniac.
a lot of other things, right? I was finishing some work. It's where we are
Yeah.
in term now. I've got great. I got to spend the weekend grading or whatever, right? Um, that I worry because of the way things have played out in the last decade for me, that I would still be outcast by the people who are the fans of the show about being an outcast, right?
Yeah, that's the irony. I know what you mean.
Right?
Right.
That that this show is appealing because look, it's this really really close group of friends because they're the oddballs, and in season 4 Mike has to have gives the speech to Elle about, why are you upset at being, the outcast here? I've always been that. And I'm like, yeah. And guess what? Still am. Right.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
it doesn't, it's like, I have yet to have that moment of absolute, final relief of, not once an outcast, always an outcast, but something, it's, society plays horrible tricks on you over and over and over again.
Mm.
And it I find interesting because, for example, people who have been the outcasts in high school grow up and become screenwriters and write their revenge plots
Right. It's Revenge of the Nerds.
over and over and over again, right? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
so did the nerds win, or are we just back where we started with, some people are outcasts and some people say things that make other people upset with them, and your real family is, oh, like you and Mel as my sisters, right? Versus
No.
some some other people in my family I haven't talked to for a while, right? Because of other stuff. And so
Hmm.
the sort of interminable fantasy of the real family is going to be the one that you get to be the friend group with,
Yes.
right? Your real family is the one that you get to be the friend group with. Okay, I have one to say that's an interesting fantasy, and it's interesting that it's so amazingly powerful that it makes shows like this really, really super popular, which must mean that people are not getting that friendship because you do it
Yeah.
parasocially, as they say, that you fall in
Hmm.
love, you become super fans because you're falling in love with characters whom you wish you could be friends with, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, on screen, I'm showing 2 different sets of faux families, allegedly, right? The bottom is the cast, right?
Hmm.
Theater kids always find out that the people that they act with in their shows are their best friends for life until they do the next show. I what my sister was in film. I know this.
Oh, okay. I was gonna
I
say,
heard
were you
I
okay with
heard a lot of
that?
stories like this, right? Oh, we just had the cast party. I mean, she was actually like in real production, right?
Yeah.
Guys, if you can figure out who I am and look her up. She'd go to cast parties. They have these intense, we'll be friends for life, cry, weep, and everything. And then the production closes, and and then you're back in her version of things, and you're back on unemployment because you don't have any money or you sort of bank it that way, right? You pay into the unemployment
Yeah.
and then take it back out because you'll have 6 months on a show and then no employment for a while, during which you're spending time trying to get new employment. So the Duffers were able to, like pitch this show and then get another one and then get another one. It's like this is like
Mhm.
talk about fantasy level.
Yeah,
You get
that's
another
very
season,
stressful.
you get another show, you get to be friends with this group and continue to act with them and do these super duper intense scenes with them that are like life changing, you know, trauma, uh, nostalgia. I've spent some time today watching videos about which of these people are actually in couples right now
Oh, did you?
and with whom.
And who? Tell who?
Oh well, the most durable one are the actresses, the ones playing Nancy and Jonathan.
Aw,
They've apparently been
that's
together
sweet.
for 8 years,
Oh, lovely.
which is pretty good going under the tense circumstances of Hollywood and this kind of
Mhm.
casting roulette, right? I guess well, so Elle is just gotten married. Millie Brown is married to um,
John Bon Jovi's son.
John Bon Jovi's son, but they're
Yeah,
and they're younger, right?
they
The
are.
people playing
I know
Nancy
they
and
got
Jonathan are almost 30.
yeah, I mean, they Millie Bobby Brown and I'm trying to remember her husband's first name, and I wanna say Jacob or Isaac or something like that, but I'm not sure what it is, but, they got a lot of heat for getting married so young, and I'm like, "This they're not too young. They're, like, 20 years old." That's my parents have been married 60 something years. They got married at 18 and 20, so yes, it's possible.
Well, so
Yeah,
this is
very.
talking about the, traditional conservative patriarchal family kind of thing. I want everyone to consider this a little bit of a puzzle. How do you make a family in the first place? Yes, indeed. You get together with someone whom you weren't related to yet.
That's
It's
right.
called marriage.
Correct.
and and so fundamentally, right, the great crisis that everybody is going through, and this is, I think the show is handling it beautifully. It's like it goes with what the Hopper character is going through with Elle and such like that.
Mhm.
The one great crisis you have is growing up and getting married.
Yes.
And that
Yeah.
feels like a rebellion against your parents because guess what? You don't marry your parents, right? That's called
Right.
something else. We
That
do,
is the family yeah, that's the
we don't
family you make.
consider that a
Right.
healthy. So yes, this I find this is what's so ironic. I find about it's like when I see you talk about Millie the L character going right. It's like
Right.
excuse me, all of our families are found.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's the one you're born into, and then okay, you want to rebel against your parents. That's literally called man and wife cleave together and become of one flesh. It's a totally different family
Right.
from the
Right.
one you
Yeah,
were
biblical
born in.
path and that biblical passage is specifically, demands that you leave your parents.
You have to leave your
Yes,
parents.
it's a command. You have to say, "Bye."
Bye, parents, and
Right.
we'll make our found family. And
Right.
so I what did I put my is my last picture? Oh yes, the brothers. Okay, we'll go back to them in a second. But sort of the meditation on it's so ironic that in fact the continuing trauma is we have to grow up, we have to get go through the horrible awkwardness of being 13
Oh.
and go through the very difficult and challenging time of finding someone to marry.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's hard.
Growing up is hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
It yeah. There's different levels of hard too. It's different types of hard, right? Depending upon what age you are.
Right. And I do think I mean they're playing off of the different it's like Owen's the Paul Reiser character. I was obsessed with Paul Reiser not when he was in Aliens, but when he was doing Mad About You.
I loved that show. I liked that show a lot.
I obsessively watched it. I could not they
Yeah.
had the only way they could end a season was with them breaking up. And they kept doing it, right? The
I don't
every
remember that. I only remember them breaking up once before she got pregnant.
well, and then it killed the show because they didn't know how to do the transition to having a baby.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like you had the characters, the tension that they had about being in this and also Helen Hunt got her acting career went off and she tried to be a film actress instead of the television actress.
Well, she got an Oscar, so
True, but then she's vanished,
but
right? It
then
would-
that happens sometimes,
yeah.
yeah.
But so she was I had a love-hate relationship with her and her character because I really liked Mad About You, but they could not resolve it into and the next stage. So there's the one stage of you're 13 and you have to grow up and you have to find somebody and get married. And then there's that
Mm.
the following stage where and then you have a baby and it changes everything again. And Mad About You could never get through that. Reiser actually wrote a really nice book about having a kid.
Oh,
Parenthood,
that's nice.
yeah, that he went on to, and it feels to me like his character in Stranger Things gets to grow up as well and deal with the fact of what I now have responsibility for Elle. What am I going to
Yeah,
do and take care of her instead of being the business relationship that or the lab
right.
relationship that he
Yeah, he
was.
was the only one in the lab who was saying, "What? This is a kid, you know. We can't just let
Right,
him die."
right,
Yeah, so he was a decent man to begin with, and even Brennan, who was just, in my opinion, a monster. You even get a flashback of him crying because one of the children has been killed. That they were working with the one child he was working with.
right.
Yeah, so even he's not completely 100% monster. They I still want him to die because he's horrible, but but he's
Well,
not a monster. Yeah.
anyway, so I'd say the thing that, and then there's the brothers, right? It's like I love the way the Duffers themselves must work together very effectively because making a movie like this is trauma of its own sort. I mean, that you're trying to coordinate so many different artists in such a complex
Oh, yeah,
production.
it's you're hurting cats.
Well, I'm like I said, I have heard from my sister about, being on set stories. It's hard. It's hard. It's really, really, really hard work. And
Mhm.
the other thing I've enjoyed watching some of are um the the guy who plays 2 in season 4 has a little video YouTube channel where he's talking about acting lessons and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
Tristan Spone and some of his he talks nicely about how nice it was working with Millie Bobby Brown in those scenes where they have to do the duels and stuff.
Mm.
How what she did to get into those into those moments, like you have to ramp up the emotion, like I did at the beginning. Wasn't I good? Um, I was mad because we were getting stuck getting started, and it's like that kind of thing you put into your what you need people to get at. She's very good actress. Like just I
Mhm. She is.
wish her well in her career to
Yeah, she's like
transition
Dakota Fanning,
to
'cause
make the next transition into being adult characters, right?
and she can do it
Which is
because she has real talent. Yeah.
right. That's challenging for all of them, right? You transition from stage to stage, and it's a really big deal. Um, uh, that to see someone who can do those scenes in character and then cut, right, and then you're off. My sister has talked about what it's like, watching the lead people do their job, and man, I it's like it's interesting how we take when it comes out really well, you're just like overwhelmed. But
Mhm.
Spone in his little videos is showing it's like here one set he did was like here's a beginner, here's someone who's done some acting classes, here's a professional, here's the Oscar winner, right? And having
Oh,
them read the same script and you're like, wow.
well, that's neat. I have to watch that. That sounds
Wow,
interesting.
right. It's like to get to the
Yeah.
level of acting that they have achieved in Stranger Things plus everything else. The fan book is nice because they talk about how um all the sets are real. Like they
Mhm.
used it's the nostalgia's for like actual
It
incarnate
makes a difference.
reality
It makes a big difference.
actors in suits rather than CGI monsters and
Oh, that's what I wanted to tell you. So I
yeah.
heard today that there will be an theater showing of the very final episode
Mhm.
in theaters just for one day.
Oh, just for one day. Oh my gosh.
Just for one day. I'm gonna try to get tickets, but I think it's 3D.
Oh
No, no, I'm sorry.
no. Like
That was Paranorman, that was 3D.
okay.
That's also gonna come out. I'm gonna see it. But yeah, it's gonna be in theaters on, is it New Year's Eve or New Year's Day? One or the other. I'll have to look that up, but
It's
I
a
don't know if it's gonna be in my
so I
market.
mean this level of like becoming reality and the fans and things like that.
Yeah, but that's just it. The audience, if the audience goes out of their house and into a
I
theater,
know, amazing.
80s experience here, because the 80s was the
Wonderful.
decade of blockbusters, so this would be kind of
Right.
cool.
Right. So how have they managed to achieve this? All of this that we've been talking about. What's their
I
secret?
do not know, but they've got some secret sauce, that's for sure.
Well, there's it. I can explain it in one word in one word, but it came to me because it's in the book. Second, and I went, oh, that's what it is. So this is chapter 3 in the fan book, the phenomenon, right? And they're talking about the reception and why, and like some. Uh, I thought this was actually a nice description from the New Yorker. So it's Emily Nussbaum praised the series as a cool summer treat. This was when season 1 came out. She
Okay.
wrote, "It's spooky but not scary, escapist but not empty. It's a genre throwback to simpler times." Hold that thought with the simpler, right? But with heroes, villains, and monsters, which is what we started with the kids playing the game, right? That they actually are fighting real. Boys get to fight real dragons, right?
Yes.
Yet it's also haunting and has a rare respect for both adult grief and childhood suffering. True.
Yes.
It's an original. The main plot is a swift moving caper with jokes and jolts. The flashbacks are about vulnerability, how people are bruised in places that no one can see. The combination of those two tones is almost musical, with a sincerity that feels liberating, which I liked.
That's
Um,
lovely.
but this was, they talk about how people just found out about it they didn't actually do a lot of advertising, apparently. It was more sort of word of mouth.
Mhm.
Um, sorry, I'm not writing in my fan book, which is odd for me. Yes, here it is. In time, Daniel de Adario offered a similar appraisal. And this is where I went, oh, now I get it. The show's tone, giddily indulgent of both small town cliche and monster serial oddity, is so backward looking that on first blush, it's hard to imagine how the show could succeed artistically or commercially in our more ironic age.
Oh, what a bore.
No, he's right. Because
He's
what?
not.
No,
That's just from his
no,
perspective
no,
in
no,
New
no,
York
no, no,
City.
no, 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 no. I mean, he goes on and said, and yet Stranger Things is an unqualified success, a show whose fondness for its own source material makes its nostalgia warm and inclusive. It isn't using familiar tropes to demand your money or your attention. It's welcoming you into a fan club.
He just said the opposite of what he said the first
Right,
half.
because he was saying it's hard to imagine, and yet he's making the contrast so you see what happened. It's not
Okay.
ironic. That is the fundamental thing that they do. They don't wink at their material.
They're not making fun of it.
They're not making fun of it. And I think the to explain how absolutely utterly astonishing that is, um we have not been able in academia to take anything seriously for decades. We are not allowed to be sincerely like the thing that the students always say when they take my Tolkien class is they're terrified of taking my class because they're worried that taking the class on something they love will destroy it.
Oh, I get
Because
that.
what academia has been doing since the 80s is it's all, you cannot actually simply love something. You have to wink and smirk and be, the sort of the real, like, bully, dismissive kids who are never allowed. You're never allowed to simply fall in love.
Mhm.
um I find this actually very interesting in terms of Northrop Frye's theories of genre. um,
Okay.
and this was interesting because one of the things that happened in the mid 80s was Hayden White came up with a big meta history theory about how we cycle through different modes of telling the past, and he mapped them onto Northrop Frye's understanding of different it's not really genre levels, it's modes, right?
Mhm.
And they cycle. um or they seem to tend to cycle. And this is like those cycles of civilization kind of things that people love quoting all the time. That the ironic is where we've been for a very long time. That it's in the sort of Sartre and what Woody Allen right there, right?
Mhm.
The other thing of the 80s was Woody Allen never being serious about anything, right? He always has to be
No.
Seinfeld. Woody Allen, Seinfeld. What
Well
have we been living through for the last 30 years? It's Seinfeld.
well,
Always
Seinfeld's sarcasm,
sarcasm.
Woody Allen was more contempt. I mean, I think he was contemptuous of the things he made fun of.
So
I
that
don't think Seinfeld was.
mm, true, fair. But it's always just it's always a refusal to participate in it, right? So remember, our
Mhm.
large question was what's the nostalgia for, right? And the if it's not ironic, and this is what the time guy was saying, we've been stuck in irony for so long that something that is simply um uh like, and she's saying, Nussbaum was saying, it's a genre throwback to simpler times. No, it's not the times that were simpler, it's the attitude to
Yeah.
the story that we're in. The genre is, you're really in this adventure, you're really playing the game, you're really honestly engaged with these characters, and you don't have to smirk at it
Yeah.
and throw yourself back out into the, well, I'm not actually gonna, I'm only nerds play that, right?
Yeah, you're not gonna sneer at it, and you're not supposed to sneer at it. You're just supposed to, like, kind of be absorbed into it and observe what's going on.
Well, what it's done is it's returned us to the first of Fry's modes, right? So his going him back, well, it's like it's mythic, right? and
Mm.
and and it matters here because Fry shows that there are different kinds of attitudes that these different modes in. Mythic is scriptural, which is what we're tending to do with this, right? The scriptural, which is what I've tended to say Tolkien is doing, right? It's the kind of story you keep finding yourself in. You come back to over. Mel watches this every year. She keeps telling us this, right? It's
She
like
does.
you
It's her
rewatch
Halloween
it and
tradition.
you rewatch it and you rewatch it and you find new
A fun
layers in
one.
it each time. The ironic, you
Mm.
can't do that because it's always trying to throw you out. It's always trying to be, nausea and existentialist and
Yeah, you never wanna be pointing at your audience and sneering at them for liking something that
That's
you've
what
just
that's what the
Yeah.
that's what our media has been doing. It's like, if you ever
Yes.
get super serious about something, it's going to be a joke, right? And
Right.
what's interesting about Stranger Things is I mean it's like really really refreshing. It does not make itself a joke. It does not make jokes at its own expense. It does not make jokes at the audience's expense. It takes its fans seriously and compassionately, and that gives them this sense of participating. The other modes, romantic, which you get chronicles from, high mimetic, which you get nationalism from, low mimetic, which you get individualism from, and then ironic, which is discontinuity. But they have, it's not just nostalgia. They've shifted the entire level of storytelling that they're participating in back to the mythic level. It's amazing.
Mm.
And that it comes back with the brothers, that they're able to be affectionate with their own relationship and who they are. It's a magnificent gift.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, Mel is saying sarcasm is the bane of the internet because it does not translate well. That
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
they have somehow and if you start thinking about, think of all of the other shows that are always making either they're dragging you down into yet more porn, right, which is what Netflix has been famous for recently, right, or to make you smirk at whoever it is that we in our story are going to be better than, right? So that's what everybody's responding to with the woke stuff, right? It's like our Mary Sue characters are always going to be better. None of these characters do that. The
Mhm.
story doesn't do that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So kudos to you, Duffers. Labor of love. Oh, that's why there are no memes. Interesting. Yeah.
Oh. Well, like Mel and I did find that, but you're right. They're not really memes so much as like some maybe one of the more famous pictures. Yeah, we were really perplexed about this before we did our first stream on this subject last week. Um, Rachel says, "Where are all the memes?" I'm like, well, we know there's memes. We've seen them, but then we couldn't recall any of them. So we started searching for them and couldn't find any good ones. It was really strange for
This
something
could be it.
something that's been such a phenomena. It's like there should be lots of memes about this, but I'm positive I've seen them. Yeah, and I did, but they're not memorable. The show is memorable though.
But it for different reasons, and maybe the memes have to be the meme world lives in that. So clearly to me, I'm recognizing that Stranger Things lives in the mythic. It therefore lives in the scriptural, which means it lives in the way in which people identify with the story. They want to be
Uh,
in the story. They want to
yeah.
rewatch it. They want to go through it's liturgical in that sense, right? We've talked about that.
And in some level, everybody watching this has already been in this story on some level because it's about relationships.
Right. Right. But it has this. Look what they're doing with the release on season 5. Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. Are you kidding me?
Old fashioned,
Liturgical, scriptural,
liturgical.
mythic, right? They're going to, we have to, so it's
Oh,
mythic. It's at this deep, marvelous mythic
yeah.
level. And if I don't know whether my phone is about to die. I won't quote Fry at you yet, but they've achieved. I mean, and I think this is lovely on their part because the primary, the background motivation for Dungeons and Dragons was famously Lord of the Rings, and Lord of the Rings
Yes.
is one of the I love Tolkien much more than I don't think C.S. Lewis ever wrote anything at this level.
No.
This you must reread it to go through Mordor again.
The language is so, I mean, the Tolkien's language is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Now, Lewis wrote good stories, but they're easily digestible ones. Tolkien isn't. You have to read it over and over again.
Well, and this is what Tolkien meant, the difference between history and allegory, and the the sort of going through it. The history is the thing you have to participate through, which is obviously why now that when we finish this, which is going to we've done our stream moment, right? I'm going to have to go finish watching. I'll probably be up till 2 or 5 or I don't know.
I'm not doing that. Well, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it tomorrow. Probably the rest of season 4 again. Yeah, I right before we started, and this is not why my equipment failed. So don't yell at me. She doesn't yell. I'm just.
I was frustrated with myself not understanding what were going on.
No, I mean I usually come in much earlier, and I said, oh, everything's working fine, and I set all my equipment up, and I came in, and
then
my earphones weren't working, which is why I've got my Beats on right now. It's like I could not get this thing work. Anyway, yes, I watched 2 more episodes of season 4 right before we came on.
Oh, that's why you were on the wire. Right.
A little bit, yeah. But it should have worked. Darn it, it should have worked. I had plenty of time.
Nope.
But it didn't.
But this is the sort of if I were going to write I haven't even written anything about Tolkien yet because part of it is like this participatory quality of it's not just nostalgia, right? It's this participation in the story feel that you must go through, and you go through it in a kind of faux trauma of binge watching it.
That season 4 is hard. Oh gosh, it's hard. It actually is a true horror. Season 4 is a horror,
right?
So
but all of these things are. I mean, obviously, what's bonding the fans, right? You're bonding with the length of the story and the participation in it in exactly the way we've been bonding with the Lord of the Rings for all these years.
Yeah.
So.
True.
Very happy to have found this story. We're going to continue talking about it next week because just like with Tolkien, right? It's like once you get in it, you start realizing all of the layers, and it's scriptural in that sense too, with the layers of today we've been doing a sort of moral reading of it, with the friendship levels, but there's anagogical, which is revelatory, and
Oh,
there's Christological, which we did a bit of last week, and then there's the historical, which is
how
something yet again. But
I found myself, jumping up and saying, "No way!" And I'm jumping up looking for a notepad to write notes down as I'm watching this. That kind of show.
it's that right. So if you already know all of this, hopefully we've given you some things to think about in your enjoyment, and you will continue to enjoyment and know that we're not being snarky or ironic or
Mm.
attributing, academic uh, battles to this particular cultural production. And let us know what you think in the comments, because we're participating in the fan world, right? With
Yes,
the
we're
the
fangirling.
fangirling with the of the duffers and such. Okay. Um, and Mel says Christ is King. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Great. So we'll see you guys next week talking about monsters. We got monsters for Halloween
Oh,
night. If we'll be starting at our usual time, so you probably should it should be dark, so you've already done your trick or treating or handed out the candy if you're handing out candy, and we will carry on next week. Good night. Thanks for joining us.